Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the latest episode of the Shannara Chronicles. Another great episode, and a lot of things went down in this episode. A lot of reveals and introductions, but obviously we'll break things down bit by bit. For one, I was kind of surprised about the whole Eritrea and Lyria situation. I mean, throughout the entire episode, but first of all, them being saved by we're getting introduced to our new character. We'll just refer to him as Jax. He's a bounty hunter who's got some pretty sweet move using those axes, like slash tomahawks. But that fight was pretty sick, and even slicing off that dude's fingers with that retractable spear, which is interesting, like on multiple different levels. One, that's something interesting, I forgot, things kind of work like that in this world with certain technology, because Alanon's sword kind of retracts like that. But I think I always just thought that was kind of a magic thing, but it seems like that might be a technology thing. I don't know. It might be a combination of the two, and I'm curious if his weapon is exactly the same. Two, is it me or is this season bloodier than the first season? I mean, especially to do get his fingers sliced off like that. I feel like, after rewatching the first season, I don't know. I feel like this season is definitely bloodier. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But the whole reveal about Lyria being a princess, I kind of figured as much the moment Jax said, "Oh yeah, you're spoiled ass," and come on, the way he was bringing her, I was like, "Oh, I was like, "Oh, did she do something bad?" It's like, "Oh." The reason he called her spoiled, like, she's a princess, isn't she? Which I thought was kind of interesting. And that's a really big thing about this episode too. We got introduced to human royalty, which kind of blew me away. Because to me, in my head, when it came to humans, most humans you've been introduced to throughout the series have been rovers, which I should have known that wasn't the case, because let's not forget about Will's mom and everything. So, but still, most of the occasions we've ever met humans, typically they've been of the rover variety, except for that group that they met last season. I don't know why, it just didn't click in my head. Because to me, I always look at humans as kind of like the runts amongst the other races, especially because elves are kind of the bad blood between elves and humans, just because humans feel like elves act like they're holier than thou and better than everyone. So I just thought it just didn't click in my head that there's actually human royalty, which I guess at this point is basically saying there's royalty amongst all four races, I would assume. So we've been introduced to the elves, now we've been introduced to the human leader. In this case, it's Queen Tamlin. Kind of got introduced to her and her Lyria's whole situation. It seems like she is a very pushy mom that's she has her own agenda and wants Lyria to fit it. It's okay, Lyria's run away from time and time again, and it's I'll always bring you back because it doesn't even seem like it's out of love. It's you're going to be here and do what you're supposed to do. Essentially, she wants to marry Lyria off to Anders, so basically Lyria can be on the elven throne. Which then begs the question, I kind of figured that much as much too when she introduced Lyria to Anders and that whole thing. So I was like, okay, so what I am curious about is for what purpose? Because Lyria makes it seem like her mom has nefarious plans. It's not the humans and elves. It's no, even their bad blood still hasn't changed. Even though it's a new king, Anders trying to reach out and everything, because they're trying to join forces against the whole Crimson situation, which I'll kind of dive into a little bit later on. But the fact of the matter is, it seems like she has something else planned. So, for what purpose? I don't know. Because it seems like Ender, for one, isn't all for the idea, because him and Catania are a thing. So that was kind of interesting, kind of finding out this episode. Which this whole situation also puts a strain on Eritrea and Lyria's relationship, simply because Eritrea is pissed because it's you lied to me. And and then her mom said oh, what'd she say? That only the real me when I'm around you. And she's although the different people she ran off with, and then she's Lyria goes through partners like she does changing clothes or something like that. So and the fact of the matter is, she was offering Eritrea a crap ton of money, it was diamonds, for her to stay away, which Eritrea didn't take. And it does beg the question, it makes you wonder if this was season Eritrea when she first crossed paths with Will, if it was that Eritrea, would she have taken the deal? But the fact of the matter is, after everything she's gone through, seeing that different side of her, knowing that there's a different side of her, she didn't take it because she actually cared for Lyria. But now it's come with me, but Lyria's no, mom would kill you, which is it's a situation where Eritrea is kind of fed up. She says, you've lied to me and you won't come with me. So it's just forget it. So you understand where Lyria is coming from, but I guess at the same time, it's kind of a situation of this is the moment you kind of like have to step up, you know? Like, she makes it seem like Eritrea is something special, then like treat her like she's something special and, you know, go all like Romeo and Juliet and say, forget the family and just, you know, love the person you love. But like her mom treats her more like a chess piece than actual daughter. Then again, we've only got introduced to them in this one episode, so maybe we get a little more time with them. We'll kind of get to learn more. I mean, maybe the queen wasn't always like this, but once again, this is dealing with the elves, so for her, it's just like whatever means necessary to take down the elves, even though this is not the time to be taking down the elves, considering the fact that you got the Crimson on one side, which they both recognize that as a problem. The other races don't recognize them as a problem. Only the humans and the elves realize that, because humans and elves have been killed by them, but it's like they're rallying up enough people that it's going to turn into like a bigger situation. Plus you got the whole Bandit trying to resurrect the Warlock Lord. So there's a whole lot going on here. So I'm just curious to see how that all goes down. I mean, ultimately, Catania ended up dying, which was like super, like, I wasn't, like, the moment he was like, whoa, 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 wait. I was like, you're about to kill her, aren't you? I was hoping he'd knock her out or something just to keep her. Nope, he ended up stabbing her. It was like, I'm actually surprised because, I mean, she had a lot of close calls last season. I mean, I guess in a twisted way, you could almost be like, fate was catching up with her because, well, Bandit saw many possibilities and he saw her being killed by, the shapeshifter last season, but he kind of intervened in everything, so she lived. So maybe you could argue that's fate catching up with her. Does make you wonder what Bandit's going to do when he finds out about it. It has to be that dude that's there is the one. He has to be working with Riga and the whole Crimson, because it's like someone had to have sold Alanon out, which it turns out that Riga can also like block magic, which is interesting. Like I might have brought this up in the first episode, but I'll kind of elaborate in this episode. It's like, why does he hate magic users so much? Like the season premiere made it seem like, okay, he blames them for everything that's going on, but it doesn't, like, I don't get that. Like, why do you harbor such hatred for them? Like, was it like something personal? Like, what happened in this year that kind of make you hate them so much? You blame them for everything that went down, getting mixed up in this war with demons and stuff like that. It's like, magic helped seal away the Dagnamor as well as those demons. It's helped defeat the Warlock Lord. So it's like, what is your angle in all of this? Not unless he's just some grand puzzle piece to this whole situation. I don't know. But nevertheless, the point I was going to make is I think they're setting this up so there's going to be bad blood between the humans and Anders. Because Anders going to think like Tamlin had something, like at least someone that's a part of her court or group or people has something to do with Catania dying. I'm sure like the knight will be like, it was a human, blah, 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 stirring up trouble, so that they're so caught up in this war with humans, they don't realize what's going on over here. So, like I said, there's so many things happening at once. Like I said, I would love to find out why. I can't wait to find out why he harbors so much hatred towards magic users. Maybe it's just kind of like because magic is so, I guess, unnatural in some shape or form. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it has to be something like personal, like he lost someone he loves because of magic, but we'll see. In this episode, we also learned more about Alanon's daughter, which, no surprise, she is in fact Pyria's daughter. Simply because it's like, Pyria is the only lady we know for sure that Alanon was with, especially considering that time, because like the reason why he broke things off with Pyria was because he immediately had to go into his deep sleep for like, you know, those 30 years, so there's that. So it seems like she was away. Her and her mom didn't really talk over all that time because anytime, you know, she brought up her mom, she got like, Pyria would get, her bring up her dad, Pyria would get super pissed. And it's kind of interesting too, because I was bringing up the fact that matter is, like there was just magic users popping up all over the place. Like, which like I said, I'd still like to learn like where that is. Like, have magic really always been rampant in the Four Lands, and it's just now that it's becoming a lot more mainstream because like maybe magic's feeling, I don't know what that is. Like, why is it just suddenly like Ryga's going off killing magic users? So there's like a lot more, because last season the only ones we knew about were Alanon and Will. So, but I mean, it seems like with Alanon's daughter, she ended up saying it herself that she was born with magic, which Will was like, but Alanon was just a regular human. It took him becoming a druid. So it's not like he was innately born with magic. And she's like, I don't know. Like maybe just because he was a druid at the time, him and Pyria, you know, got together, which obviously like Alanon doesn't know about that. She definitely kept that a secret. Maybe there's a part of her, I guess because she was kind of hurt by him leaving and everything, like where they were standing in season 1, it was just kind of like, nah, not the time to really be mentioning that, you know? Like, you really don't need to know that because it's like, oh, you know, ultimately you'll leave again, go away again, you know, caught up in your fight, your duty as a druid. You'll just leave her and me behind. Plus, at the time, her and her daughter were in good terms anyway, so that probably adds another element to it. Which, when you actually break it down and think about it, that is Pyrea's daughter, so technically she's part of the royal family, which is kind of interesting. I wonder will that play a role in this going forward. I mean, I wonder whether it's kind of all in with her, like, eventually joining the royal family, because aside from Al-Anon, that does make the royal family, you know, her family do, you know, so that's just kind of interesting. Like, she kind of went from probably having really no family, obviously because her and Pyrea were not on good terms, till possibly having a lot of family. Like I said, I don't know. It really depends on what they decide to do with that. Like, that might, like I said, might play a part in the story. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Which, side note, it's interesting we still haven't gotten her name. Usually with things like this, I typically kind of usually look it up ahead of time just so I can start referring to the character by their name. I don't think Will's ever called her by her name, nor has he ever like been like, oh yeah, what's your name? I mean, guess at this point in time, Will's just kind of focused on everything else, so he's not really trying to get to know her and everything. And just like, oh yeah, you're sure a lot like your dad. So, but nevertheless, oh yeah, I almost completely forgot to bring it up, but this is also the episode that Eritrea found out about the truth about Amber Lee, which is. That sucks to kind of learn about that all at once. You find out that your girlfriend's been lying to you. You also find out that the person who's probably easily one of your best friends is now gone. You were thinking like, okay, she's off with Will. They're all happily ever after. Oh, wait, what? No way. So, I mean, but then again, she is the Elkree, so there is an aspect of her still being alive. She did send that message out to Eritrea. Anyway. All right, that's what I meant to bring up. This whole going back to the whole conversation about royalty and stuff like that. It's like, what does that make Eritrea? Because Eritrea is definitely something special too. I don't know whether it's like maybe she's from like some human magic bloodline or something. For the fact of the matter is, remember her blood opened a path last season and everything, and then like the marking on her back or like her like shoulder like shifted and formed all over her arm and everything. So she's special. So obviously maybe she's from some like royal human bloodline, like, which brings the question of like, how did the whole like Tamlin situation, like how did that royal family start, like amongst humans and stuff? I don't know, like generations of stuff going down. I wonder how the like, because a thing, and this kind of goes along with Into the Badlands, because it's actually these shows are actually made by the same person, same group of people. Interestingly enough, the same creators behind this. I'm blanking on their names, but they actually had a big part to do with creating Smallville too, which is kind of interesting. But nevertheless, it's interesting because it's like both worlds are kind of like, like distant in the future and things kind of fell apart essentially. So it's like almost like post-apocalyptic worlds or post-dystopia. I don't know how you really would phrase it. Obviously the more supernatural fantasy, sci-fi-ish, I guess, settings after like human society fell apart essentially. Obviously this is a more fantasy side where, well, you know, that's semantics and everything like that. It's just, I wonder would they ever really go beyond like world building and being like, this is the way the world is, leave it at that. I mean, whether they will or not, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I'm just curious about how that like whole secession thing, like how did the first human royal families even start? How did the whole world start with all these different races? How did that happen? Nevertheless, because the conversations have come up about like past human technology and stuff, like it's beside the point. I mean, it's kind of the point, but nevertheless, moving on. I'm very interested to see what role Eritrea plays in this, because it's kind of interesting because Tamlin was trying to pay her off and everything, not realizing it's like, oh yeah, like Eritrea is literally one of the heroes that kind of helped, pretty much saved like the world, the four lands from the demons and everything. So, but to most people, she's just a rover and stuff. So nevertheless, other things that went down this episode is you kind of had a conversation between Will and Al-Anon's daughter. It's kind of interesting because she's like, I don't get it. You have this magic. You're a Shannara. Like, why are you just like running away from your destiny? Like, she's like, I see the marks on your arms. Like, the fact of the matter is you're using your magic and you use it to heal yourself. So why are you just running away from your destiny? She's basically like, when I learn how to control my magic, you won't see me running or hiding from it. But that's just because, for one, and I think Will's not really opening up to her and everything. So he's not explaining like, it's pretty sad because he's running away from magic because it took a person that he cared about so much. Like his life got so much more complicated. He lost someone he cares about because of magic, because magic comes at a price. And I'm sure that's something Al-Anon's daughter hasn't learned yet. Like, and sometimes that price is too steep to pay. And the price, like the mark she's referencing, is just you doing magic just so he could see Amberly's face, which is like super depressing. Like, I don't know like how much of the whole circumstances she knows around him helping save the world. Like, I don't know if she really knows about the Amberly situation, or at the very least, maybe she doesn't know about the connection between Amberly and Will. That the fact of the matter is there was something there, so her sacrifice hit him hard. I don't know, because like she doesn't like. It seems like she doesn't know that, so I am curious to see like where her perspective changed, like knowing what Will kind of went through. It's interesting because she talks about going to meet Al-Anon simply because he's the only other druid, he'd be able to teach her how to use magic. Which now I'm thinking about it, I didn't even think about it till now. It's like, oh yeah, technically Al-Anon's daughter and Will kind of have a lot in common. Both have magic. Obviously from different things. Did I bring this up in the first episode? Does Will have magic as a Shannara? Does he have magic outside of the Elfstones? Like, as actually, once again, she's a druid's daughter, so it's kind of like I said, it has to be because he was a druid at the time him and Pyrea conceived her. So maybe that influenced or something. Maybe it's supposed to be like, because they were setting Bannon up to be like the next druid, maybe Al-Anon passing the torch. But the whole thing is now it's like he's going to pass it on to his daughter. Hopefully he'll make sure not to make the same mistake with Bannon, not to push her, So, I mean, that's also like the last piece of Pyrea that he has, left. So. And now I'm sitting here thinking about that situation has to, like, I don't know, some level sucked for him too, because he ended up having to sacrifice. He knew the cost that would happen, like sacrificing Amberly sacrificing herself for the Elcrees, because that's part of his family too, because him and Pyrea and everything, and just, I don't know, it just, we think about it too much, it's just kind of interesting. But I think for her, this is also going to be an opportunity to kind of meet her dad. To her, it's more like, oh, this is training and everything. To be fair, like it's not like he knew about her and ignored her. It's like he had no idea she existed. So this is probably also an opportunity to kind of not only learn magic from him, but also kind of learn more about him. But maybe she'll be like, no, I don't need to learn about you. I just need you to teach me magic. You weren't there most of my life. I don't need you now. Maybe that type of thing, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. It's kind of interesting because obviously this is the episode where we'll also learn about Bandon, also about his uncle actually being there the entire time, like hiding. Like his uncle brings up an interesting thing about like the reason why your dad died wasn't because of the Elfstones like driving him mad, which maybe on some level they did, or maybe it was to hide the truth behind it. Being the fact of the matter is he drowned himself in regret, like a lot of past mistakes, things he probably wished he had done differently. Maybe it was a combination of the Elfstones plus all that, kind of running away from his duty, hence him drinking and stuff like that, because that's a lot of responsibility to be like one of the last of the Shannara, and like that's a burden that's can be pretty heavy to bear, and he kind of probably had to essentially bear it alone, essentially, because Al-Anon was asleep and just very few people knew about what he really did and everything. So, but I mean, Will might fortunately be lucky enough, hopefully, because he'll have people like Eritrea and maybe some of the other new characters we get introduced to this season. Maybe they'll end up kind of forming around him. I'm very curious to see what like the party's going to be like this season, because obviously we've been introduced to new characters. I don't know if they're going to end up being like, eventually I think at the end of the day they're all going to be allies. Just when things kind of get really real with the whole Warlock Lord situation. Nevertheless, so it kind of put things in perspective for Will can't just run away from dealing with his whole Amberly situation, and also like can't run away from his duty. But like I brought up earlier, he found out about Bandit because Bandit visits him and everything. He's like, I don't want to hurt you, Will, because the fact of the matter is you were kind to me when you didn't need to be. So, but he ends up taking Will's uncle because the only way to get to the head, which is the last piece he needs, is the fact is that it's sealed away, and the only ones that could open it would be Al-Anon, which we know he gets kidnapped by Ryga this episode. So now Will's got to go track him down. So obviously he's going to cross paths with Eritrea. So that's definitely going to be an interesting thing when they meet up with Al-Anon again, especially his daughter. Interesting circumstances to meet her dad on Earth, what I'm trying to get at. It's kind of interesting when it comes to Banon's character too, because of his approach. Like there was that gnome that was being like tortured by the elves to get information about where Will was. Obviously, they're part of the Crimson. Banon shows up, kills him, but then kills the gnome. He's like, "Oh, you can go." And he's like, "Why are you letting me go?" It's like, I have no problem with you. But when the Warlock Lord rises, basically everyone would kneel. It would be a problem for everyone. But it's like you do see parts of Banon in there that it does seem like there's still some hope for him, maybe, to the point. Like I said, the whole conversation with Will. I mean, granted, to be fair, he was crushing Will with his magic, and Will was bleeding from his ears and his ears and his mouth. But taking his Uncle Flick as collateral, so he has 3 days to do that, or Banon will kill his uncle. Which that whole situation is interesting because Ender himself had asked Alanon, like, why didn't you destroy the head? He's like, oh, still don't understand anything about magic. It's like, with magic, there comes a price. Because it's like, yeah, the Warlock Lord took measures to make sure that wasn't the case. So part of me is like, does that mean, like, if the Warlock head got destroyed, does that mean it's going to be like some kind of it's like some kind of curse that the moment it's destroyed, it will kill Will? Is it like bound to Will's life or something like that? You know, because it was Shay, Will's dad, that ended up defeating the Warlock Lord. So it does make me wonder, like, did that kind of curse happen or something like that? Maybe that played a little bit into his drinking and stuff like that, his regret, because he knew that his son will always be bound by that. It's like the responsibility is, if he wanted to really make sure that the Warlock Lord could never come back, he would have to kill his son to ensure that the fact is the head would be destroyed and all 3 pieces could never be reunited. I'm thinking that's got to be it, to the extent that Alanon would not destroy it. I mean, then again, it's like magic, and if you're not careful with magic, even trying to destroy it, like if you're not careful, there are consequences for it. But my brain is immediately thinking it's got to be that Will situation. Granted, I could be completely wrong. I'm very interested to find out, you know, what that's all about. Like, because like I said, there seems like to be a bit of secrecy with that. So, like I said, overall, a great episode. I'm super excited to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.